is up and welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build studio in New York City in the heart of the great nor'easter of 2018. Now, I know for a fact today of days, a large number of you have called out or skipped something to be home, which means you have no excuse for not submitting some kind of question. You know how it works. Press the button on our site or hit us up on Twitter at BuildSeriesNYC. We'll keep an eye out for the good ones, all right? Now, my next guest is a filmmaker, actress, and comedian. And sure, you've probably seen her pop up here in Ant-Man or on the Comedy Central series Corporate, but if you're not one of the 2 million plus people following her on YouTube, then I can say honestly, you're missing out on the really good stuff. Often referred to as the big sister of the internet, she is one of those rare influencers who has made a concentrated effort to leverage her following and her platform to affect actual positive change. Man, we need more people like her, and we need more shows like her latest, Youth and Consequences, which premieres today on YouTube Red. Here to tell us all about it in a second, the great Anna Akana is in the house. How about that, everybody, huh? So exciting. Now, before we bring her out, we're going to take a quick look at a trailer for the show. So, Luke, let's go ahead, man, and run that clip.
If there's one thing I've learned, whether it's high school or the real world, it's that the only way to get respect is to take it.
I'm smelling a gender war.
Bring it on. Remember, the key is getting power first. Then when you're on top, you can make change happen. Maybe we should do something a little more than protest. What do you want me to do?
Wait till you see what I got.
What?
The administration has been watching us.
What do you think, Farrah? It's indefensible.
But do you realize what we have here? We have confidential information on half of the school.
I think that's a superintendent.
Oh my God.
So do we have a scandal?
Who else knows about this?
Nobody. Yet. This stays between us.
Everyone has their secrets.
Don't! Cannot post those photos.
This is a huge story.
Yeah, but it's not your story.
We need to take this kid out.
3, 2, 1. Your move, girlfriend.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise. Anna Akana is right here. Right here. Anna, my goodness. I was saying this in the green room, and I'm going to say it a lot on the stage. I absolutely love this show.
Thank you.
So congratulations. And we're going to get into the show. We're going to talk all about it, talk about how you got involved, the whole nine, all the questions. But before we get to any of that, I love asking this first, just finding out, getting a level here. How are you? How's Anna?
I'm terrible. My personal life sucks right now. I'm not gonna lie. I went through it, got dumped. So rebuilding myself. But career-wise, everything's been fantastic. So I've been able to focus on that and really dive in. Yeah. How are you?
I'm really well. Personal and professional are going very well right now. Yeah. Knock on wood. We're doing great. But you know, I want to ask before we get into this, since you bring that up, there's something that I think about you that has resonated for years, and that's your comfort and your confidence in speaking openly about you and who you are and what's going on with you. Have you always been that way? Have you always been that comfortable sharing your life with the world?
No, I remember when I was 17, I asked my younger brother, who was like 14, to buy me a Cosmopolitan magazine because I was too embarrassed to do it myself. It's been something that's been learned definitely over the last 7 years of having to look down the barrel of a camera and talk about myself.
Well, goes without saying, I sincerely appreciate you carving out time in your busy schedule to be here, and I appreciate your honesty and your candor.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me again.
Of course. Let's get into this show, this amazing show, and let's start at the very beginning. How'd you get involved? How did it start? How'd you hear about it? How'd you come to work on what you've called your dream project?
My manager actually sent me the script for this almost 3 years ago to the day. We bumped the email when it came out because we were just like, oh my God, this is the whole beginning of the project, this email. Yeah, I got sent the script and I read it, and episodes 1 and 2 used to be the 1-hour pilot together, and what you see on screen is pretty much what was on paper. Jason Ubaldi, the writer and creator, was just he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. And I remember meeting up with him and just gushing over how much I loved the project and I loved the female characters, and we really clicked. I joke a lot that he's like a 17-year-old girl stuck in like a 50-year-old man's body. But he's really good with teen voices, and he's really good with female voices, and he has like a bunch of really beautiful children, and is just the most amazing human being, and I want to work with him creatively for the rest of my life.
It's pretty amazing. I didn't realize that he's 50 years old, and because you're right, the voices are really authentic. There is a truth to it, and there is something about it that you watch this and it's very believable, and you get pulled into it very quickly. You were also executive producer on this. Was that level of involvement in your head from day one? Did that come about as you were developing the project, or?
That was my hope from day one. As an actor, when you're hired onto a project, you don't get a lot of say creatively, and I loved this script so much. I wanted to have more of a say behind the scenes. And once we partnered with Mark Gordon Company and with YouTube, they were all on board with trusting my creative vision, trusting Jason's creative vision, and having us be really more of a cohesive unit rather than a network that's going to bear down with notes on us.
You having been a creative professional and been a YouTube creator, the very nature of which means you get to be in control. You get to executive produce all of your content. As you've started sort of blurring the line between traditional media and digital media, have you found it difficult as you take on other projects when you walk on a set? Do you remember the first time you walked on and they were like, "Oh, we just need you to do this today"? Like, is that hard? Has that been a challenge?
No, it's a relief. It's a relief when I get to just be I'm just like, oh, I just say the line, somebody else has the vision. This is the way that they want it. I love being a cog in the machine when I do get the opportunity because I'm so used to having to calling all the shots. It's like a nice break from that. So I do enjoy it, and I welcome it. And it's nice to be able to be like, I'm just here to serve whatever your vision is, and then I'm done for the day.
Pretty amazing. I love that. Have you ever walked onto a set expecting to just kind of do that, but then you got there and found out whoever was working on it was like, "Hey, so what do you think?" And you're like, "Oh, now I got to put this hat on."
Yeah, but then that's also nice too, because it's more collaborative, and they care about your opinion, and they think you know the character, because that's why you got the role. So I don't mind that stuff. It's more so like the idea that, oh, I don't have to watch the same cut like 15 times and give like notes on like down to like shave a frame off of this thing, it'll time out better. So that kind of thing I welcome.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that could ruin the magic. People don't realize that, like the backside of like actually making all of these things, like the science of it, that you've, whether it's a film or a song or whatever, you've heard it or seen it a billion times by the time the audience sees it for its first time. So I
probably watched the whole series like 7 or 8 times, like in a row, and then each individual one like 5 or 6 different times. Wow. Yeah.
That's impressive. All right, well, that dovetails nicely into the next question, which is, I saw that you had not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, you did the big premiere and you watched it in a big room, and I believe the term you used in the tweet was "you ugly cried." So, one, talk about the experience. I imagine, was that the first time you saw it in a large setting, not just large format, but with an audience and seeing responses? What was that like, having seen it a million times, and now here's these new eyes?
Well, it's always nerve-wracking because you're like, is everyone gonna hate this? Some things play really well on a computer and on a screen, and then you blow it up and you're like, oh, this does not translate. And I've definitely had projects where I go to a premiere on a big screen and I'm cringing the entire time, and I know all my friends and family are like, you tried, you did your best. So this was a dream project because everyone kept looking at me like, dude, this is so good. We love this. Like, we got laughter in the places we tried to get laughter, and also laughter in places we didn't. People actually came up to me afterwards and were like, this is so good. My manager, Leanne, was like, look around at everyone. She's like, they're not on their phones. No one's on their phones. That's how you know people like a project. Yeah, because after a premiere, normally everyone, it's industry, they crank out their phones and check their emails, and no one was really doing that. They were all very engaged and in the moment, and it felt really fulfilling and great, because it feels like I've been waiting 10 years to get to make something like this.
Was there a part of you, I really want to get into that in a second too, but was there a part of you watching it on the big screen for what I presume to be maybe one of the first times you've seen it that large, that almost like watching it new? You've seen it 1,000 times, you've never seen it this large. Are you yourself spotting things you didn't see before, finding things you didn't notice?
I feel really lucky when I get to the point of watching it on a big screen. Normally I can turn that part of my brain off and just try to enjoy it. I've seen myself on screen so much now that I don't feel as self-conscious as when you first start out, or like, nitpicky about my acting performance. I can just try to enjoy the story. With projects that go horribly awry on a big screen, definitely I'm like, oh, could have done something different there. But I'm really proud and really confident about this product.
Okay. You said I've been waiting 10 years to make this. You've called it your dream project a million of times. A million of times? A million of times. You've referred to it as your dream project. Can you go into a little bit of detail? Tell me why it's your dream project, what it was that you've been waiting for 10 years to make this.
I love teen shows. Like, I just love Riverdale. I love Gilmore Girls. Like, I love teen show. I'm aging out of that, so I'm glad I finally got to make one. And also, I mean, it's two things. One, if I auditioned for something like this in the traditional world, I would never get it. They would never hire an Asian woman to play the queen bee of a school. You would have a Regina George type, someone blonde and icy with blue eyes. So that in and of itself, as an Asian woman, I felt like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to be the protagonist of something like this. And the second was that the show tackles a lot of social and political issues. So not only is it a teen show, but it's something with a lot of messages that I believe in. I'm very mental health awareness oriented. I believe in suicide prevention for teens. The show also tackles things that I can't tackle on my YouTube channel because I'm not an authority on the subject, like transgender bathroom laws is not something I feel comfortable making a vlog about because I'm not in that community. But with a narrative scripted show, we absolutely can talk about our stance on that because we're utilizing characters to display our message. So for both of those reasons, I was just like, I feel like this, I hope I'm not peaking, but I feel like this is the best thing I've ever made.
That's got to be a really exciting feeling. And I imagine when you're on set, when you're doing that, here you have such a show with like such strong female leads and such a strong female-driven story. Was there a different vibe even just on set, just making the show? Did it feel different from other projects you've worked on besides?
100%. Yeah. We had 4 female directors. Each director did 2 episodes. YouTube Red in and of itself is about making at least 70% or more female-oriented in crew, showrunners, directors, etc. I felt incredibly supported. It felt like you had the creative freedom of digital with traditional money. So we had TV-level budgets, we have TV-level marketing support, but it's still, they trust your vision and they trust you to know what you're doing, which is wonderful.
It's pretty amazing. We were talking about it backstage because you're right. You get that sensibility of like the Gilmores or like a Riverdale kind of show or something. But I think what it's been called and what you've called it is Mean Girls, but like woke kind of. And my way inferior way to describe it was I described it as a veggie burrito. In that, it looks and resembles something that you love to eat, but you know is kind of bad for you. But at the end of this one, it's delicious, and you don't feel bad at all. Like, it feels good because that positivity, that the fact that all of these characters are complex and fleshed out characters. You know, nobody's mean for no reason. Nobody's really mean even. Everybody has an entire backstory behind them. I wonder how much of that was there in the first bit that you read, and how much of that did you find once you got deeper involved with it?
Jason's a genius.
Yeah.
All of that was there on paper. All the cast brought it to life in a very new and different way, and it was important for me and important for YouTube to cast diverse because, you know, I don't know what you would think reading a pilot like this, but my automatic response is to almost imagine everyone is white, unless it's specified in like their last name or something, and so I love what each girl kind of brought to the role. They gave it their own twist on it. But as far as like the motivations and the complex relationships and the backstories, all of that was something that Jason had well planned out years before.
There's a great line. I forget I think it's in the second episode, but it's during the makeover scene where they say they're talking about swapping out the sports bra, and they're like, you know, get on top first, and then you can sort of make change happen, like, you know, conquer and then do it. Which I kind of. Maybe I'm crazy, but it sort of parallels your story as well, where you have worked for 10 years, 7 years, 14 years on YouTube, whatever it's been. And now I read a great article in HuffPost interview where you talked about that you can make decisions about roles that you want to play now that cast Asians in a positive light. And I wonder, do you remember when you developed, the moment you got that ability to do that? Because you talk a lot about not being able to do that for a while.
Yeah, the first couple roles I ever took were very demeaning. I was in one of the worst movies of all time. It was my first movie role, and it starred a guy who was a driver teacher, and I was his student, and he would ask me questions like, do you want me to tape your eyes open? Is your pussy slanted? And it was incredibly racist and awful, but it paid my rent for that month. And the moment I knew that I had more power was when I was financially able to sustain myself on YouTube. And so when these roles came along, I wasn't dependent on the financial ability or the credits necessarily that were afforded me. I was like, no, I can wait it out. I can turn this one down. I have the financial stability to do so. And I have the audience to do so now as well. So now when I see those kinds of things, and my manager already knows, like, I don't want to go out for anything that reinforces stereotypes like that.
Oh, real quick, I wrote down just a shout out. That piece was Kimberly Am at HuffPost. It was really good. Anyway, but That's got to be a really great feeling to have reached that point, to achieve that point. I think for a while, like I said in your introduction, you've been using your platform to enact or affect actual positive change. Did you take on that responsibility? Did you feel that responsibility before you hit the 1 million, the 2 million followers? How early was that instilled with you that you wanted to be a positive force of good in the world?
I mean, I guess once I knew I had influence, it was like, oh, how do I use this influence? I think the first time I ever really did was I made a video called Please Don't Kill Yourself. And it was directed towards suicidal teens because I lost my little sister in 2007. And I had always imagined, like, you know, maybe if she had had a YouTube personality that she likes, like a Grace Helbig or a Lily Sang, who talked about mental health awareness, like, would this have ever happened? Because I'd already been approached by so many, like, young women by being like, oh, I love your videos. They feel like therapy to me or whatever it might be. And the amount of people that I met in real life that responded to that, like at conferences or at shows, made me realize the actual power you have as a voice and a face on screen, especially with YouTube, because the difference is, I don't presume to know a traditional celebrity. Like, I look at Jennifer Lawrence, I'm like, I don't know what she's like. I know the character she plays. But with YouTube, people feel like they're your friend. Yes, they feel like they know you and they approach you as if they know you. And there's a different level of sort of fangirl there. And so I was like, wow, I can either use this for good, or I can just throw it away carelessly like Logan Paul. And I definitely want to use it for good, and I want to affect change in a positive way, because I think that's all that really matters.
Well, for sure, and thank you for doing that. And like I said, we need more people like you for that precise reason. It is a huge responsibility that I don't think anyone in technology or entertainment could have anticipated one individual having. So to be at the forefront of that, to acknowledge that, and then to do something about it, it's to be commended. So thank you for that.
Thank
No, of course. I got a couple more before we throw it over to the audience that I really wanted to get into. I'm going to ask. This might be a little bit heavy, all right, but we're going to do it. How do you, because as someone who's reached 2 million plus, you got your dream project. At this point, how do you define success? What is success for you at this point?
Good question. I think success is trying to stay true to an artistic vision and exploring that without getting jaded or being driven by numbers or money. I think that's it for me.
And has that evolved for you throughout your career as you've hit these milestones? At one point was success, well, I'm going to hit 1 million. And then you did it, and you're like, well, I got to reevaluate what I consider making this work. Yeah.
And I have clinical depression, so like the hardest thing is like there's no reason you're sad. You know, your career, like at one point, like my career was going great. I felt like I found the love of my life. Everything in my life was perfect, and yet I was still horribly depressed. And so having that kind of realization of like nothing you chase is gonna bring you actual happiness. Like you could die tomorrow for all you know. So for me, like success is like how many people am I positively affecting, and like how much am I growing as an artist, because that's what I love doing.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for that. You handled that. Was a way better, not better answer, but that looked a lot easier for you to answer than I've seen other people struggle with that question. I don't know how to. All right, we're going to turn it over to the audience because they braved the storm to be here with you, and far be it from me to rob them of their time. But I do have to say, this show is fantastic. Thank you for making it. Congratulations on realizing your dream project. All of it is just dropped today on YouTube Red, right?
Yeah, I haven't even gotten to read the comments yet.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, congratulations. Let's go ahead. Let's turn it over to the audience and open it up. We've got some microphones out there. Looks like the first one's right here.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for being here. I was wondering, since you got to get your dream project out there, is there anything else that you're looking forward to do now?
I've been working on an album for almost a year, so I'm really excited to do that. I started in comedy music, but I've always wanted to make something a little bit more serious, and so I'm also doing a stop motion thing, which I'm super stoked about, but I think it's just like diving into different platforms and different mediums is what really excites me. Yeah, thank you.
Do you ever find yourself tapping into something that maybe you didn't realize was a valuable skill that you picked up early on when you were freaking out over those comedy sets and like those open mics, and you were like having those panic attacks? And now here you are 10, 14, whatever years later, and you go, oh, you know, I kind of learned this back then, and I'm grateful for that experience.
Yeah, even with Farrah, like I played a mean girl in a web series for like 3 years that nobody saw, but we kept making it because we loved the characters. And like once we did this, I found myself like just slipping back into that mean girl role. So I was like, oh my God, I had no idea, but this is why I was doing it for so long. I was prepping for this role.
So cool. Yeah. Awesome. Hey, thanks for that question. We've got more coming. Next one is right here.
Hi. I was wondering, who are some other artists that you would want to work with, like directors or writers?
so many. I love Edgar Wright. I love him so much. Also, I'm blanking on the name because I'm bad at this, but the writer of I, Tonya. He wrote a bunch of other films as well. I suck right now, but yeah, him. I also love. Oh, I hate these on-the-spot questions. I was gonna say Amanda Bynes, but she's not doing good. And Jennifer Lawrence.
Still work with her.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Amanda Bynes. Like, She's the Man was like my favorite movie growing up, and so yeah. Yeah.
That would be fun to see. All right, we have time, I believe, one more. I'm getting a signal, one more question. While we're doing this, for the love of God, somebody look up the name of the person who wrote I, Tonya. That's going to kill me until we finish this. Last question is all the way back here.
Hi. First off, person's name is Craig Gillespie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I was wondering, since this is a YouTube Red show, what are your favorite people that you like to watch on YouTube?
Ooh, Natalie Tran, if you guys haven't seen her, she's an Australian comedian who makes the most mundane stuff absolutely hilarious. Ryan Higa, I don't know how he has this many puns after like 15 years. I'm like, you're still making puns! And who else do I really love? I really love Liza Koshy. I think she's just so silly and so funny and cute. She just has really good dance moves and like just is not afraid to be like a Jim Carrey, you know? She's totally down to like just move in a way that I've never seen before and looks slightly painful.
Always a plus. When
Yeah.
it looks slightly painful, I know they worked extra hard to entertain me, so I appreciate it. Well, speaking of appreciation, man, I really appreciate you being here, Anna. This was wonderful. Regrettably, I have to let you go. You got to move on to your next thing. But Youth and Consequences, it's all out right now on YouTube, Red. You can see the first 2 for free, right? And
And then you can sign up for a free trial to watch the other 6.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. I can't wait to see what's next. Can't wait to hear that album. Congratulations. Everybody make some noise for Anna Akana, please.
Thank you, Matt.
Please.